The question everyone wants to know is, if you don't do well on the LSAT, can you still go to law school? I do not want to be an adult. Someone please save me. I actually have to get to work and be a productive member of society, which is also kind of weird. I had to take the LSAT again. Just thinking about studying all day makes me want to cry.
One eternity later.
Today I'm going to show you how to actually get into law school, and by that I mean not listen to all the people that got like perfect scores and actually take advice from someone who is mediocre and average. When I first started applying to law school, I was terrified because every video on the internet is just not realistic. Like, everyone's talking about their super high scores that they got and how well they did, and the reality is not everyone's that smart. I wish I knew these things when I was applying, because I spent nights crying thinking that I'm just stupid, when in reality, no one is just portraying the right information on the internet. All right, whipping out my tips, because you know I gotta write this shit down. I applied to over 20 schools. I got into 7. I got waitlisted from 4.
Hey, dog, get some ice cream?
At the beginning of this video, because this is what everyone's gonna wanna know if you're going to law school, I'm just gonna tell you my stats, where I applied and where I got in. I applied to 20 to 25 schools. I'm gonna start with the wait lists. Near and dear to my heart. Shit my pants when I got these. Okay, the schools I got waitlisted from was Louisiana State University, or LSU, Arizona State University, which was way above my LSAT score. It's possible. I think their average was like a 165. Stetson and Campbell Law, which is in North Carolina, I believe. The schools I got into, this includes the waitlisted schools that like I ended up getting into. So I ended up getting into LSU. I didn't choose the school just because the tuition was way too high. I would have gone there if it was affordable, but we'll talk about that later. I got off of Campbell's waitlist, and for the schools I got accepted into, I got into LMU, Nova Southeastern, Little Rock, Arkansas, St. Mary's Law, and South Texas College of Law. Now, I'm going to be transparent with you when I say this, and listen to me closely when I say this. I didn't get into any school that I wanted. The only school that I wanted from this list was LSU and Stetson. I did not get off of Stetson's waitlist, but I did get off of LSU's. I was utterly horrified when I didn't get into basically any school that I applied to. But I'm just gonna share my stats and what I learned from this, as well as like the tips that I have from the application cycle / my experience. So I got a 152 on the LSAT, and my GPA was like a 3.5, 3.6. Pretty average. The national average is quite literally a 152. So, and I'm here to tell you, you can go to law school even if you got a 150. If you're below a 150, it's pushing it. But if you get a 150 or above, you're fine. I studied for like 6 months, took it, studied for a few more months, took it, and then took it again. The second question people have is about personal statements. For my regular statement, I wrote about growing up with people with issues, which I'm not gonna go into that, but let's just say I've had a pretty interesting life, so I kind of wrote about that and how it gave me a good work ethic and how I can become a better person. They just want to hear about how you stand out. There was a few schools that had me write why I wanted to go to their school in particular, like LSU. So with LSU, I have a personal connection to that, considering a lot of my family lives there. So I wrote about that. The third thing is the cost, which I'm going to do a whole separate video on law school costs and how you pay for it, scholarships, all of that. As far as cost goes, I'm not even kidding. I spent probably $1,200 to $1,500 applying to schools. Looking back, I should have just taken the L and realized that like I wasn't going to get into half of them, but because I have real world experience, I've worked at multiple law firms, my essays were really good, I was willing to take my chances. I really do think that they should take real world experience into consideration, but I guess that's not the world that we live in. So, low tiered law schools, let's talk about it. So, like I said, I know many attorneys from personal experience that have directly told me that the law school you go to does not matter. With that being said, you need to look at the type of law that you want to do. I knew that I was never going to go into corporate law. I have very specific areas of interest, but if you're not planning to do corporate law and you're going to a school just because it's higher ranked, you're wasting your time, because the amount of money that you're going to be paying is not worth it. If you get a lot of money for a high ranked school, go. By all means, well, then go. But if you're not like getting money from those schools, you're just taking out way more loans than you need to. People don't realize like you're not only paying money for school, like you gotta live. I'll make another video on that. The last thing I wanted to talk about is what I personally learned from the application process, and the number one thing that if I could look back and change is, and I know this sounds stupid, but I wish that I didn't emphasize on my score so much, because I really put my self-worth on my score and, you know, gaslit myself into thinking that, you know, if you're not scoring in the 160s and you don't get all these scholarships and you're not going to a high-ranked school, that people are going to look down on you and you're not going to get a good job and you're a failure and you shouldn't even go to law school. No! That is not true. You are not a failure. You are not any less intelligent than other people just because you're not going to a high-ranked law school. You may be, a lot of people are like, oh, if I don't get into a good school, I'm not going. No! That mindset is so toxic. And not only that, but people underestimate the power of work ethic and connections with people, making connections with attorneys, and being a personal person, having knowledge, being able to do the job effectively. That's what's gonna make people wanna hire you as an attorney. All these people saying that, like, you have to be crazy intelligent and you have to be like the top applicant, like, no, you have to get in. And one other big thing that I learned is that I don't care what anyone tells you, applying early to schools does make a difference. If you feel like you're a subpar applicant or you're right on the line with the school, if you can apply before everyone else, like the day it comes out, like LSU, I applied the day it came out and I got off the wait list. If you apply last minute, it really does like hurt your chances because they just already gave out like all their scholarships and opportunities like way ahead of time. I'm going into my 1L year. If you guys want a law school review, the purpose of my videos is just to be honest and realistic, because everyone is fake and they don't tell you the reality. So I hope that this helped. That is my goal. You guys can also follow me on TikTok if you like. My TikTok is Jacuzzi on Susie. Don't ask me how I chose that name. I found it in a rap song. Anyways, bye. Don't let anyone tell you you're not smart. I promise. You're smart. You just might be average like me.